Welcome to 221B Baker Street. Today we will be going over the case of the man with the twisted lip. I am Sherlock Holmes. Actually, I am your host, Zachary Hare, and with me for the rest of the season of Elementary and perhaps Sherlock is Rob.
Hey, good to see you. Well, I'm not really seeing you, am I? I guess we're just talking on mics.
Well, you have my profile picture there, so you're looking at me as we're talking.
I've got it covered up, Zach. Sorry to tell you.
Oh, so hurtful.
No. Stop it. All right, well, let's talk this thing out, man.
All right.
So the man with the twisted lip, I got to ask you up front. Now, I really enjoyed this episode.
Oh, yeah. Well, really? I didn't.
Really? I did. Listen, I got to ask you something, though.
Mm-hmm.
You said that this is the name of a Sherlock Holmes story.
Yep. And I was going to get to that.
I want to know, and you can go into detail later, but I just want to, yes or no, did it follow in any way that story?
Nope.
Okay, that's all I needed to know.
Barely. So there was like one element that was similar. Other than that, I really don't understand why I felt it was a weird. It's just like at least Hound of the Cancer Cells, that was like a weird mention, but this was an exact.
This is flat out, straight out, man with the twisted lip. That's a book.
Right. That's an actual story. It's one I know pretty good. It's an interesting one, which we'll get into later. But it's like there was maybe one element that could be compared, and that's it. So I think it's a weird choice. I was looking forward to it to see if they were going to do like an homage to it.
Right. But didn't happen.
No.
All right. So you got that question out of the way. Let's get into it. Now, you didn't like it, you said.
This didn't really feel like a detective. It felt like the B story was more important than the A story.
All right. That's a very fair assessment. Did you not like the A story, or was it just that there wasn't enough to it?
That was the weird part. It's not that I didn't like the A story. It didn't really feel like like an elementary case.
Okay. Well, see, and I'm a little less experienced with the show, so for me, if I had been watching from the very beginning and was really into it, I might have that same thought. From my perspective, the A story, I actually had the exact same thought, that I thought the A story was less important than the B story. And I think that's why they did the kind of cool tech stuff that was in the A story, like seeing the drone, seeing that mosquito. That was kind of cool. And it didn't come off cheesy, in my opinion. But really, the reason I enjoyed the episode was the B story. It was the Mycroft stuff. It was the stuff with Watson. That was the stuff that had all the good lines. I mean, there were so many good lines in this episode, and they all stemmed from that.
Yeah, but it felt like the episode was just a setup for the B story, which we find out is very important in the next episode.
Well, could be. I mean, think about like, well, anything really. When it happens on TV shows all the time, it happens in films even.
Oh yeah.
There is a transitional. So sometimes it's a transitional element of it, like in a movie. Sometimes like the middle chapters will be kind of transitional, and you're like, really, nothing's happening, and then all of a sudden, bam, Or on TV shows, you see it a lot where there'll be a couple of great episodes, then there'll be this transitional where you're like, was it character development? Was it story setup? What was this? Nothing really happened. Here, I agree. I think this was a transitional episode, but for me as a newer viewer to this particular show, I thought it told me a lot. I am now very intrigued by the whole Mycroft and Watson relationship. And the funny thing is, I had seen the episode when they had hooked up before. So, I was already interested, but this one added a layer to it that really got me interested. And I thought they played Holmes great, although I was a little disappointed that he put the heroin in the book.
He put the, what do you mean?
At the end? Did we watch the same episod, Zach?
Is that? I wasn't sure what he put in. No, I wasn't.
Oh, that was the heroin. Remember when they found the little packets of heroin at what's her name's place? Tess or
I didn't really see what he put in. Oh man,
it was one of those little heroin packets that had a little smiley face on it. That's what he hid in his book. And part of me says like, oh, well, that makes sense. It's very logical. But I was disappointed because I thought we were kind of past that. And I didn't think that he was hurting in the same way from what was going on with Watson, that he would even consider that. I don't see this Sherlock at this point as allowing himself to tempt fate that way. I could see him slipping back. You can see that with any addict. But the fact that he took that, put it in the book, he was listening to Page's music. I thought, oh, he's turning into emo Sherlock, and then he puts that in there. I'm like, oh, and now he's going to be mopey emo Sherlock, keeping the drugs around. That was the part I didn't like because it didn't ring true for me.
Oh, I
Although now
see.
I'm thinking about an emo Sherlock show. That sounds kind of interesting.
I think I know the reason why I missed it.
Soundtrack by The Cure.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
the reason I missed, I think, is because not because I missed the scenes, because I didn't, because we only saw it for like 2 seconds at the beginning of the episode, so I didn't realize at first what it was.
Yeah, yeah. I actually just rewatched it this morning. That's why I caught that. But I may not have noticed it the first time. But this time it was just very clear to me when I saw him put the thing in the book. I wrote a note here like, why did he put the heroin in the hidden book? I don't like that. And that was the only thing that really stuck out to me as a negative. The rest of it, I really enjoyed his interplay with Watson. I enjoyed the whole Mycroft storyline. If you want to get a little nitpicky, the French guy in Mycroft's restaurant, that was a little too staged for me. Like it was just a little too obvious, but at the same time, it was a plot device and it led us to what's going to happen next week. So, I mean, really am I complaining? I don't think so.
Well, I'm wondering, and I don't know if it's like, because I have no problem with Watson and Mycroft hooking up. It's not an insult. A lot of people watch it will go, "Hey, when are Holmes and Watson are going to hook up?" I look at them and go, "Never, or I'll never watch the show again."
Right. Yeah. It cannot be Sam and Diane from Cheers because the second that happens, what happened on Cheers? As soon as Sam and Diane got together, the show turned to crap. But I think they've got to retain the tension. I don't think that she should ever get with Mycroft, really. I think that she is destined to be tied to Holmes, but I think that's something that we never need to have happen. That has to happen so far in the future that we never see it. It's not part of this story. Because if the series finale is the wedding of Sherlock and Watson, it's going to be like the worst finale ever.
Well, they can't hook up because it's just a stupid idea that just because
I don't want them to hook up. But
just because a man and woman are together doesn't mean they have to hook up. You know what I mean?
But you're right. You're totally right. But there is a deepness between them.
I think it should be kept as friendship.
I think it should too. What I'm saying is, I wouldn't care if. This is so weird because I don't want it to happen on the show, and I don't think it should. I think that's ridiculous. But as I watch this show, and I know how story goes and everything, I think, yeah, now flash forward to them being in their 60s. They've never gotten together with anybody. They've made one of those deals. If we're 60 and we're never married, you're the one.
Jeez.
And I think he would hold her to that. And the way he would hit on her is say, "You have quite a symmetrical face,"
which is one of the great lines of this episode.
It's the greatest. You have quite a symmetrical face. It's time we do this thing.
She has a symmetrical face. She'll find a mate.
That was so funny, man. I don't know.
The writers have said they'll never hook them up. They promised that will never happen.
But she can't be hooked up with Mycroft either.
I think what they're going to use, because he's connected with the people that kidnapped her, I think they're going to use that, like, I was going to be with you. Because it's such as much as I love the show, that's such a cliche. Like, oh, we're making a big life decision. Oh, it's always either an Arrow just did this. Like, it's either going to be a kidnapping or a car accident or,
right.
or like warehouse with a cancer.
And that's when they call in the A-team.
No kidding, right?
That's what it felt like. But you know what? I really don't mean to criticize because I'm telling you, I did enjoy the episode. And when they took her at the end, I was like, great, we've got a setup. Next week is going to be action and Sherlock is going to be panicked. It's going to be good.
The reason I'm
and she is not going to hook up with Mycroft because Mycroft is tied in with this guy no matter what he says.
Now, one thing, the reason I like the A story is because it didn't feel like that much of a case, really. It felt too easy. But,
okay.
Like
you mean the murder felt too easy.
Well, how they figured it out, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, once again, the A story, as you said, the A story did lack something. It was a little bit easy. And the way it unfolded, it was a Holmes type story the way it unfolded. The girl's missing, they find her, they find this other body. It turns out that she wasn't even the target. They solved her murder in 2 seconds. Now they have to solve this other thing. And the other thing, it's a CEO gone bad or a COO gone bad. It was fairly simple stuff, but it was a vehicle to get that cool mosquito drone thing, which was cool. And really, that I think was being used as a distraction to the real story, which is Watson, Mycroft, and Sherlock. That's what I think.
I think you're right. That's all it was. I think that, in my opinion, it hurt the A story, but yeah, I like the B story. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I think we're just kind of beating a dead horse here because we're saying the same thing. It's just you're your focus and my focus are a little different.
Right.
Like you are a little bit more focused on the A story, wishing that had more depth. I'm actually okay with it because I liked the depth of the B story, but we're both saying we like the B story a lot better than the A story.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's an easy one.
Oh, I love when you have disagreements where you agree.
Don't get used to it, Zach.
Oh wait, it reminds me of that Futurama episode with the clones. Like, hey, wait a minute, those two presidential candidates are clones. No, it's okay. They differ on key issues. I think your tax doesn't go far enough, and I think your tax goes too far. It's like that.
Right. Yeah. So okay. I told you I've seen episodes where Mycroft is in it. I have a question about Mycroft.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with Mycroft from other works, okay,
Yeah.
and I find him to be a really interesting character. I love that they're bringing him in, and I love the actor.
Oh, Reese
they're using.
Ifans, he is fantastic.
He is fantastic as Mycroft. The scenes with him and Johnny Lee Miller together.
Oh, perfect.
I'm like, wow, I could watch these two with the tension and with Joan there all day. Once again, that's why I like the
By the way,
B story
when he
so
walks
much.
into her, when she realizes he's there, her face just lit up. Did you notice that?
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny because I didn't see the preview. I didn't read the thing when we first saw it. I just popped it on, and when they walked into his kitchen and you saw the table set, immediately I was like, oh my god, Mycroft is in his house.
Oh, and
Like,
that's
oh
what
no.
now what was your question about Mycroft?
Okay. So, and when I saw that story, I actually hadn't watched the preview. I turned it on when it was on TV, so I caught it right at that moment when they were walking in. I hadn't even seen that beginning part. All I saw was them walking in and the table set, and the woman's doing the dishes, and I'm like, oh my god, Mycroft's in his apartment. And then of course he walks out. I was like, this is awesome. And then that's when I went back and I watched it. You saw the preview, and it showed that whole setup. I forgot about that setup when Mycroft says, it didn't go as planned. What do we do now, or whatever? I don't remember what he said. There's a quote I didn't write down, but it really that was a great setup for the whole thing. Now, my question about Mycroft, now that I'm done filibustering about it, in this series, is he supposed to be damaged goods like that, or is he supposed to be a little clueless to what's happening in his surroundings as far as this French guy?
Well, they've gone bits in the way. It seems the implication like Mycroft, just like he doesn't have enough. Like Sherlock said, he's lazy and has that. Like if it takes too much work to do something, he wouldn't do it. Like he like it.
Right,
It's
but he's running a couple of restaurants. I mean, this guy is not a slouch, you know?
or is he what the idea is like he's not. He's like just doing it for the fun aspect and like he wants to be the big
Yeah,
restaurant owner.
okay, so that's what I'm asking really. Like I'm not getting a bead on that. When I saw the episode with him and Watson when they had their date, um I wasn't sure about him there. There's something about this portrayal of Mycroft that is different to me, and I can't tell if
It's definitely a very different take on Mycroft.
right, and I can't tell if they're adding an element of he's a bad guy. Like they're two sides of the coin. Sherlock and him it's a fine line between good and evil, and is Mycroft actually skating on the evil side, or is he the a little bit clueless to that, but he has these Sherlock tendencies, and maybe he falls on the wrong side of the tracks because of that. I don't know. Give me a little insight there if you can.
Well, I think it could be either one because and both would fit with Mycroft because of course the whole idea of Mycroft is from the books is he's as smart as Sherlock, but he doesn't have Sherlock's drive. Like
Right.
in the books, the Diogenes Club is where he just sits around. There's the scene in the stories where him and Sherlock deduce from a window. Like he would rather do that than go outside and deduce.
Right. Right. Yeah. Do you ever watch Monk?
Of course.
Okay. I used to watch Monk. I actually missed the last season and I never saw how it ended. So, spoiler, I'm sure something happened. But I loved Monk's brother. I loved that whole storyline.
Played by John Turturro, which was great.
John Turturro was
That's probably where they got the
show.
idea.
Well, that's what I think. When I saw Monk and they showed his brother, immediately I thought of Mycroft and Holmes, and I was like, this just makes so much sense. And it actually kind of tainted my view watching this Mycroft, where I was like, I almost wanted him to have some of those shut-in elements on top of being lazy and everything else. But I'm glad he didn't. I'm really glad he didn't. I think that I could see this guy inviting the John Turturro character over, and the two of them hanging out and having this weird bond. That's what I see. Big crossover, Monk and Sherlock. Let's make it happen.
Mm.
Get my agent on the phone. But anyway, Mycroft. Can you tell I didn't get much sleep, Zach? I'm sure everybody can. Mycroft in this is I just can't tell if there is an evil element. Maybe I watch too much stuff with conspiracy, maybe I'm, looking for that too much, but I kind of get the impression that he has fallen on the bad side of things, and it could be that his laziness that drove him there. I mean,
yeah, well,
what do you think?
I could believe that, like, he brought people on his backers just to pay for the club, whatever. I guess like he didn't care that they were like or want to know, but I think we're gonna find out pretty fast, like next episode probably, how much Mycroft's involved with these people.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think he's going to be involved to the point that he knows, or do you think he's going to be like, "Oh, wait a minute, I didn't know all this." And his laziness and his, maybe even greed on some level is what allowed this to happen, and he's going to feel bad about it?
It's hard to tell. It could go either way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm definitely in for the next one. I am down for seeing what happens. So, were there on this episode? There were just so many good lines. We already talked about the one with
How much heroin was that? Enough.
enough. You know what? I really liked right at the very onset when he was in the meeting, and the guy asked him, what's the biggest threat to your sobriety? And Sherlock goes, Sherlock, addict. Like, he just cuts to the point. He doesn't go into that whole, I'm an addict. Hi, Sherlock, addict. And then his line is, I am without peer. I thought that was a really well done line. Like, that sums up 90% of his personal disaster. But I disagree. Now, do you think when he says I am without peer, that he is referring to a companion, like
No.
a love, or a peer? Because I understand intellectually he may not have a peer, but Watson is his peer unquestionably.
Well, I think it's all like, because no one sees and was mentioned a lot with Irene Adler, and like that he's got no one that sees the world the way he does. Even Watson, who is the closest thing he has to a friend, no one sees the world like him. That's what he means. That's what I think he meant.
Well, yeah, and I think you're right, but it just, to me, I think there's a lot of ways to look at that line. And if you think of the word peer and what it means, yes, it can mean your peer as far as same level, same viewpoint, and all that. And he's right. The closest thing he may have is Mycroft, and Mycroft doesn't have the same viewpoint, but he is same level according to the books. But when I think of the word peer, I think of what Watson is to him. And I think that was actually what the writers were telling us when that they were saying the same thing. Why did Joan show up at his meeting? What did she say to him? Do you remember?
Something I listened to it twice, but I didn't really understand. She said my subway let out at this time, so I thought I'd walk with you home. It's like,
well, yeah, it was like I got off at the stop here. My subway let off here, so I came to walk home with you. Okay, to me, when she said that, that's a peer. That is his companion, because she was thinking of him. She was caring for him. You do that when you're friends or when you care about somebody. Would I, if I knew you were at a meeting and my subway let off, would I go like seek out to get you and walk you home? Well, we're peers. Yeah, I probably would, or I might go back. But it wouldn't be, it would just be like, oh yeah, I got let off there, you were still in the meeting, I went home. If my wife Martha was in the meeting and I got let off there, I would definitely sit there and wait for the half hour for her. She's my peer also. But there's a little bit of a deepening there, and I think Joan was exhibiting that deepening. I hope that made sense, because I wasn't slamming you. I was actually saying, you're my peer. I would do the same thing, but I may not stick around as long. I'll just meet you back at the coffee shop or whatever. But in this case, she stayed. She went there. She stayed. She had other things she could be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's not like if you're not a peer, you're not going to think of that other person. I can think of people that I don't really care about ever seeing or talking to. I would never like, oh, I'm getting let off here, and I know them. They're not my peer. I'm not going to stop and go in there to even bother saying hi. If I see him at the coffee shop, great. But otherwise, I'm not going to go out of my way. That's not a peer.
Now, as we see it down here at the meeting, is the one part in this whole episode that's like the story Man with the Twisted Lip. Watson has a friend in the original story that has a missing husband. So that's basically it. That's the only comparison. Watson finds the case and it's someone missing.
Okay.
That's it. That's the only thing that's like the original story.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Oh, and the person was in the story was an opium addict that was missing.
Okay. Interesting. So there were some loose parallels. So what they probably did was they took overarching story ideas and used those points and then wrote around them. I wonder, do you think that's going to be a trend that going forward, like into next season, that they're going to take different stories, use those same points to build off of?
Possibly.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. Because think about it, most people don't know the material that well. Like, I've read a bunch of the books, I've seen the old Basil Rathbone movies, and like I've been around it enough that I'm pretty familiar with it. But like when you say The Man with the Twisted Lip, I don't know the details about it unless I start reading a synopsis and like, oh yeah, I know what this story is. Do you think the average person knows that, or do you think that they can use those elements and it's kind of a fan service thing, but at the same time, it's just a way to kind of bring that world into this a little bit more?
Possible.
At the beginning of the podcast, before we started recording, you and I had a little conversation. Here's a little glimpse behind the curtain, where I said something and every answer you gave was yes. You do it again. Perhaps.
Well, if that's the answer. Now, okay, so they start to investigate the case, and Holmes, weirdly, apparently he has a little bit of history with this woman that wants to find her sister. She was very supportive of him when he first got started in AA. I mean, not NA. Sorry.
Yeah, NA.
And he weirdly, and he was doing the disagree thing. He's like, oh, this is beneath me, this is it. And Watson's like, oh, well, if we're not going to take the case, he's like, I never said we weren't going to take the case. It's like, what the frick?
Right.
So they start looking into it, and they're looking into the woman's like life and stuff. It turns out she was using again. And here comes another great line of the show where Gregson goes, you went out looking for a missing person and found a den of heroin dealers.
Yes, that was great. And he had him in the lockup there. That was really good. Well, I like that they didn't dwell on that. They interrogated the guy. He was trying to work his way out. They were just like, you're not getting out. That storyline's over. We're moving on to the next thing. I thought that was good. Because, a lot of shows, once again, they get bogged down in something like that. Like, oh, now the heroin dealer, he did this, and now it's going to come back, and here's a thread to this. No, you know what? That guy, all they needed was the heroin. We caught the bad guys. Done with that. Let's move on. And the guy's left there in jail, which is exactly what you want.
And Holmes needs to figure out, so he starts to listen to the music and stuff, and he discovers that there was a reference to Harriet Tubman. So they realize there's that plaque, so they go to check out, and they find the guitar, which leads to, I do like this. It's not really a favorite line, but I just liked it. How it's like, I found the body.
Zach, I'm going to make you follow me around and do sound effects like that. And then I found, dun, 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 the guitar.
You pay me, I'll do it.
Oh, guess what? You're not doing it then.
Oh, wow. Another thing I'm doing for Rob for free. What a coincidence.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. But, hey, how about that keyboard that was sitting in Paige's place? So they were doing these things all over the place, broadcasting that she's a musician. And one of the most obvious was they had a keyboard sitting there when they were in her apartment and they were looking for the heroin, or when they found the heroin. That was a pretty sweet keyboard. I was like, yeah, that looks like something from the 80s. I thought those things were cool. So, I don't know. I had to digress there. I wrote down cool keyboard.
You noticed some weird stuff.
Well, you know what? Sherlock and I are peers, and we do notice these things.
And, of course, another great thing in this episode, the return to Mrs. Hudson. Yay!
Yes. I like that. We need more of that.
Now, Rob, let's see if you know. Did you know that this actor is actually transgendered?
Zach, I did. And you want to know why?
Why?
Because you told me on the last episode.
Yes, I'm just seeing if you were paying attention.
I pay attention. Trust me.
I was hoping
I've got a dossier on everything Zach has ever said. I really don't. That would be
No,
weird.
you really don't. Okay. Yeah, but
No.
I knew we.
I like that bit of tension though, where you're like, uh-oh, what have I said?
Oh, please! I've said plenty of stuff, and I'll defend everything I said.
I don't
Defend
know.
and deny all of it at the same time.
Perfect. Okay, so I got another funny thing that happened in there. I don't know. Were you still going, or can I bring this one in?
I would say you can go ahead.
Okay. Here's another line I just really liked. When Sherlock was alone with Watson and he starts talking about joint custody.
Oh, jeez.
I was cracking up. I actually had to rewind it because I started laughing so much at this scene because the look on her face, like, really? And she goes, really? Did you just say that? And he's like, well, yeah, Mycroft will have you part time. I'll have you part time, and that'll work out for best. And we'll have an arrangement. It'll work out. And she's like, he goes, isn't that a term of endearment? And she goes, it is a term of never use it again, or I'll kick you in your soft parts. What a funny line. I loved that. I thought that was really great.
Now, talking about Mycroft and Watson, do we think he was being sincere with his proposal?
Okay, this is a great question. This is something that we really, I don't know if we can really even dissect it because we don't know.
Yeah, I would love to hear the fans' take on it too.
I would too. I would love for people to write in and give us some theories on this and tell us what they're thinking.
But the only person that even tweets with us is Kristen.
Yeah, but she tweets.
And she might be coming on the show.
We're working on it. So here's my question. Here's my thought on it. I don't have a question. You asked the question. What I'm thinking about it is I think that is actually the crux of what's going on. If he was sincere, then our thoughts on him being somewhat a bad guy are completely unfounded. He is not. He's just ignorant. And Holmes actually said exactly that. My brother is either an idiot or a criminal. That's it. There's no gray area on it. And I think that if his asking Watson was sincere, then he's an idiot. And all this stuff that's going on, he is oblivious to. If it was not, then it was a manipulation. And that would also mean that, like, when the guy found when Joan found the picture of herself in that guy's motorcycle, that whole thing with Joan was a setup way before that.
And does this tie in to whoever Mycroft was talking on the phone?
Right. Yeah, that's where the big questions lie in this.
And who was that? Fans, email us. Come on, I want your opinion.
Who was it?
I mean, because it obvious. A lot of people said it was, Moriarty, which I don't think.
Of course, everyone's going to go back to that because that's the easiest.
I don't think so.
Most obvious.
I mean, I thought so at first. Maybe I don't know.
But you know what? Moriarty is really invasive in Holmes' life, and that would make sense. And the fact that they're not flipping it over that quickly does add to the intrigue of it. Because if they flipped it over, then it would be like every time immediately that it's Moriarty doing it. But if that was planted, we saw this whole thing go down. Now we don't know. Is it Moriarty or is it something else or what's going on? They may not answer that question even yet. What if we get halfway through next season and then we finally find out that it was Moriarty? Then everything we just saw happen had nothing to do with that. That could be the case. I don't know.
So as they're investigating, it leads them to some kind of firm that develops drones, which apparently drones is a very loaded word.
Yeah, right.
And soon they're investigating of the man who died, who was probably the real target. They discover he had he had a therapist who tells them nothing, but he also had clippings of an incident. And so what I've been able to gather, it was a bunch of CIA operatives dressed as Afghanis as Taliban, and they were killed because they thought they were Taliban, but it turns out they were Americans, and that they weren't sure who was responsible, and it got covered up.
Right. So friendly fire covered up. Yeah, that's what we just heard.
So they start looking into it, and they discover that the very same firm was paying his therapist right around the same time he left.
Right.
And the plot thickens.
Yes, it does. But once again, this is the A plot, so it thickens, but it wasn't super thick.
Yes, if this was a deep dish pizza, I would have sent it back.
Oh, very good, Zach.
Hey, you're from Chicago.
That's right. You're talking my language.
By the way, did you see on the Daily Show when he said your pizza isn't pizza?
Yeah, well, you know what? He's wrong. So take that.
Everyone knows Boston pizza's better anyways. Now,
you know what? I would, attack and get in a whole debate about it, but that's just stupid. Take that.
Well, you've been
Isn't your best pizza place Pizza Hut?
Hey, Papagenos.
I thought you were going to go like Pizza Hut. No, that's terrible. We like the pizza at Costco.
I don't think there is even Costco near me. But anyway,
Oh, really? You don't have Costco out there?
well, somewhere, but not near me.
Oh
No,
yeah.
I get my pizza. If I'm getting frozen pizza, I get it from Market Basket.
What is Market Basket?
It's a New England chain of food stores. I'm hoping they'll pick me as a sponsor just for mentioning them. Ding.
I'm sure they will. Yeah, when I get frozen pizza, I slum it and go to, yeah, that's going to do it, Zach. Perfect. You are the spokesperson.
Hey, they could do worse. Now, it's kind of a throwaway line, but we also find out that Sherlock Holmes once again used the hacker group Everyone, which apparently led him to a bat cave in a
Right.
church looking for a lost cat.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's what led him
So,
to.
okay, everyone, just so I'm clear, that was the hacker group that we
It's
saw.
essentially anonymous. They're just not calling it
That's who we
anonymous.
saw in that other episode. I thought that when we were watching it, you explained that to me last time. When I saw it this time, I was like, okay, everyone is that group. So now I'm clear. That is, so to say,
Well, it's
everyone.
a group maybe be too broad. I think community would be a better term probably because it's like what he does is he sends a request out and they give him a task to do to get the information. And that's how he found the payoff to the therapist. So they bring him in for questioning, and apparently it's all death from above because he's killed by a robotic mosquito.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, now something I really want to touch on is, of course, they've also found their drone in their house. Now
Yes.
I could go in the whole I don't know if we're at that technology yet, but it's TV, so that'd be too much of a nitpick. But this is one of my major problems of the episode. They capture the drone and then they have it for the rest of the episode. I'm supposed to believe that they're not going to send someone in to get that. That's probably millions of dollars in technology.
Uh, no kidding.
They just leave it
Although
on.
they seem to treat them as disposable.
Yeah, but
So maybe it's not. Maybe
it's a direct. Oh, let's see. Someone's using drones. Could it be the company that makes drones or uses drones that's connected to our victim? Nah.
you are smarter than Sherlock. You're his peer. You figured it out.
Well, it's just so well.
It's
No,
so super obvious.
I
Yeah.
felt it was really obvious. I do like how when the guy gets stung, he's like, "Where'd it go?" And Dresden's like, "What?" Like
Right.
he's like, "What is going on?" And even Gregson's like, "You have it back at your house? What?"
Yeah, right. Yeah, but they seem to have like we saw the one at the precinct, we had the one at Holmes' place. Now, outside, the one that was buzzing around, I'm assuming that was the same one that was at Holmes' place.
Yeah, I think he said it
But
followed us home pretty much.
yeah, he thought that it followed him home. But once again, they seem to have these things swarming like mosquitoes. Thank you very much, and they're just kind of everywhere. So who knows? I mean, they might be at this point for that company. That technology might be pretty much disposable.
Maybe, but this is nothing I promised the episode. Now, they didn't. I think they said it was shotgun like pellets that killed the man, but I'm to believe that no one reported like massive gunfire in the park.
Depends on when it was and if there was anybody else around. It sounded like they were the only ones out there at that
I
point.
guess it just
And the drones would have been able to see, they would have been able to witness. That's why they chose that moment to do it. If the only other person that was there was Paige, then that might be an acceptable casualty amount for them to say, you know what? There's only one other person easily taken care of. Bam, bam, done.
and then they have, of course, the thing where Watson comes up with the plan to trap them by doing a false statement, saying they have another copy of the report, and so they use it. And I thought this scene was done a little weird because the scene where Holmes is sitting on the bench and they flash back to the picture of the I think it was the CF or something like
COO.
CO, that's it. So whatever the term is, and like we never saw it, so it's like when did he notice the guy? Like when you look back, you can see the guy.
That
walking.
was weird.
You can see the guy walking. Like you can see him walking.
But did you see the guy? I didn't see the guy.
I saw it on the rewatch. Like if you look again, you can see him walking towards Holmes, but the shot that they chose to use is weird.
He's so far out of frame though, or so far in the distance that I didn't catch that's who it was. I was actually shocked. Like I saw somebody there, but the fact that he texted her, they could have done maybe a little closer shot of him. or giving us an angle where, like, maybe from his viewpoint from behind,
Yeah,
so that you see Holmes' eye catch that he's there,
right.
and then he texts it.
And we get to see Watson do a little pickpocketing.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
here's another thing. I have a problem with with the story. Okay, she gets. I have no problem with her getting it with a security pass, but she gets in the office. She gets the report. First of all, they don't destroy the laptop. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
It's just in his office. No, he would have
All
destroyed it.
right.
And
Yeah, he would
then,
have.
like the guy, even though he was the guilty party and doing things without the company's knowledge, still he's in a position where, wait, someone's in his office. Security, go to my office and destroy the laptop that she's holding. The security would do that in a second.
Yeah. Right.
Like she's just in her office, like, oh, I'm in the office. This is not Mario Brothers. Once you get to the past the flag, you have not taken the castle.
Right. Ooh, a Mario reference. I always like that. Now you know I'm going to be thinking about that the rest of the show.
But you know what I mean? Like she
I do.
just because she's still in the even though he is doing it, like I said, without the company's knowledge, she's still in the enemy stronghold. He could take 2 seconds, call security, be like, just stop her,
right.
destroy the. Why he still had the laptop?
I was actually thinking the same thing. Like what I was thinking is when she was in the office and he got the call and everything. I thought, first of all, why didn't he call security? And then since he didn't, okay, are we supposed to assume that he's the only dirty one and he can't call security to make this happen because she'll blow the cover? That seems a little weird.
Yeah, because you couldn't do this on alone. He needs someone to pilot the drones to kill the people.
Right.
Right.
He's a COO. He's not the one building that tech and flying the drones and killing people. It's not happening. So yeah, very weird.
But so that's how that one. They do a little throw. It says he makes the deal. Now the scene. I like the scene with from before with Mycroft at home because he's talking about how like you don't appreciate her. It's like I have the greatest respect for her work. He's like, no, I mean her.
Yeah.
Like as a person, and even Holmes starts to realize, and that's what's interesting about this. Holmes starts to realize Mycroft is right. That he does, and he's trying, like he has that scene where he apologizes to Watson. Watson takes the apology, but she says, "You're always apologizing after you get what you want."
After the fact, you're right.
Oh, by the way, another great line. You'll notice that you weren't in the invitation.
Yes,
That
was a good one too. Yeah.
And I think we're going to delve into what Watson. I mean, we have before, but we're going to delve in even more what Watson means to Holmes in the coming episode.
I think so too. Now, this was episode 21 of the season, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How many more episodes do we have? Is it 24?
Because
I think we have 3 more
episodes. I think you're right. I can double check really quick, but and so I'm looking forward to see what, because this show has a very good habit of not doing anything for no reason. So usually what they're doing here will tie into the later episodes.
Right. Well, that's what I'm wondering. If we're at episode 21 and there's 3 more episodes, we're going to see this thing play out with Joan in the next episode. But is this all leading us into that final episode, or are we going to see this next episode? It solves this thing. Whatever is going to be the end of the season, are we going to see it kind of start up in the following episode, and then everything changes in episode 24? Or is this Joan thing going to continue and this storyline going to get bigger? I actually would like to see that. Like they call it mythology episodes. What are we going to be leading into more of a mythology ending to the season? And watch the Monster of the Week, which the Monster of the Week in this case was the A storyline we saw, become less important. Make the B storyline, which is the mythology, the bigger story. Well, I would love that.
Well, the thing is like if we go by last season, they wrapped things up pretty much. I mean, they of course stuff carried over, but they had a conclusion at the end of season 1. So right.
So do you think they're going to have a conclusion here, or do you think that they're going to lead us? Because especially with the way TV is in the last couple of years, you're seeing that leading into the next thing is definitely more of a trend. Not so much of a cliffhanger, but like a lot of, especially if they're playing with mythology, a lot of mythology stuff kind of bubbles to the surface. Things get solved, but a lot still is sitting there. So by the time the next season starts, people like us have talked it out and are like ravenous to see what happens. Do you think that's what we're going to see?
It's hard to gauge because if they follow through with the first season, they're going to have a wrap up. I mean, this might even get wrapped up in the next episode. We don't know because well,
that's what I was saying. I wonder if the Joan thing will be wrapped up, or if we're going to see that carry over.
I think we're going to see the Joan, like she's going to get saved probably by the end of the next episode, but it's going to carry over to who Mycroft was talking to on the phone, and that's going to tie into the conclusion of the season.
Okay, all right. Oh, I just can't wait to see what happens. Yeah. I mean, I'm all in at this point.
I think we've dissected this episode good. The case is solved and all that.
I would say so too. And Watson is abducted. That's it. You know, we're left hanging until next week.
No, I was just thinking. I wonder if, because as we said, Holmes hides the heroin in the book. I wonder if that ties into him being mad a couple episodes ago. Remember when Mrs. Hudson rearranged his books?
Yes. Yes. I wonder. Well, you know what? We may not get an answer to that, or we may. I don't know. So yeah, that's a good thought. I mean, do you think when she rearranged the books that maybe something fell out that he didn't want her to see? She threw it away, or he's lost it? I doubt he's lost it because he seems to know where everything is, even when his stuff is rearranged. Or is it just simply that maybe he has other things hidden in there? Or I got one more. Or we're gonna go around the park in our boat here with my oar. That particular book where he has the heroin hidden right now, maybe when she rearranged the books, it was just the fact that that book was touched where he used to hide his heroin. Not that there's anything there now. I mean, there is now, but at the time that there wasn't anything there. It's just the fact that that book was touched. That could be what he was reacting to.
Possible. So Rob, why don't you remind the listeners how they can get in touch with us?
Well, we have lots of ways. One is you can email us. I don't know what our email is, Zach.
That would be.
I know what the Southgate Media Group at gmail.com email is, but what's the other way to reach us?
That would be, you can reach us at Baker Street Podcast on Facebook, at Baker Street Pod at gmail.com. And also, of course, Baker Street Pod on Twitter.
Yes.
We would love for someone, because we feel so alone. And I've been trying to convince Rob to do the smoke. I've been trying to convince Rob to do the smoke signal option, but he hasn't opened up to it.
Yeah. You know what? That's going to be over the summer. Maybe we'll try that. Yeah, actually, if you do send to the main Southgate Media Group page, or if you write comments on our website, which is www.southgatemediagroup.com, those all go to me, basically, and I share that stuff with Zach. So there's just so many different ways you can reach out to us. I'm on Twitter at rsouthgate. We also have a Twitter, which is SMG Pods. So you can reach us all these different ways. Give us your theories. I really want to hear what people think is going on with Mycroft and what they think how this series or season, I should say, is going to end. Because I would like to know if people think, yeah, this is a setup for a bigger mythology type thing, or no, Zach's right. They're going to wrap it up, and we're seeing, that. Here are the clues that are leading us to whatever wraps up this season. I'd like to hear what people think about that.
A little correction. It was Baker Street Podcast at gmail.com.
There you go. That's why I didn't say it. I don't have my notes in front of me that have the name of that. And we have 29 shows on this network. I can't remember
and I host most
Gmails
of them, don't I?
No, you don't. But you do have a fair amount. Now you just started up the Warehouse 13 podcast.
Yes, Endless Wonder. It's going very well.
Endless Wonder.
This is going to be the last season of Warehouse 13. Now, whether or not we're going to retroactive do episodes, that's still up in the air. But of course, and me and Dawn are still waiting to do this when the Sleepy Hollow DVD comes out, so we can do a podcast for that.
Yeah, you've got Sleepy Hollow, which is headless. You've got this, and now was Dracula picked back up?
No, nothing has been. They haven't announced anything, I think.
Yeah, they haven't. Okay, well, if it turns out that they announced that, you've got Dracula next year too. Zach, you got a lot on your plate, man.
Yeah, and I need to find a co-host for that too.
Yeah, well, we'll get on that. We'll figure it out.
And of course, we cannot forget Ice, Fire, Dragons, Wolves, the Game of Thrones podcast that I host with the crazy and lovely Cheryl.
Yes, that show is really good. I've been enjoying that quite a bit. So if you are a Game of Thrones fan, definitely check out Ice, Fire, Dragons, and Wolves. It's really cool. You can find it on iTunes. You can find it on Stitcher. You can find it on Podbean, TuneIn Radio. Man,
you can find it directly beamed into your mind.
You can find it at Libsyn. You can find it on our website. All the past episodes of all of our shows are there.
You can find all the show titles tattooed on Rob's back.
Yeah, I'm running out of room. Yeah, so there you go. Check out our stuff. Share it with your friends. Rate us. Review us. It really helps. If you like this show, if you like Elementary and you like this show, when you do a review on iTunes or Stitcher, it actually helps other people find the show because it raises awareness on the searches. So if you like the show, that's one way you can really help not only us, but help other fans connect and find the show and get in community with it.
And we get enough listeners, we might start getting paid. So come on, people.
Yeah, that someday, right? So there you go. I would say that's it.
Well, the case has been solved. It's time for me and Rob to depart, for the game is afoot.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fund going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.